something was wrong. The sky was too quiet. The wind howled like it was alive. A figure fell from the clouds, crashing into deep snow with a thud. Leo didn't move for a few seconds. His eyes opened slowly, adjusting to the blinding white around him. Cold stabbed his skin like knives. He was alone. No buildings, no voices. No sign of life. Just ice. Endless ice. Above him, a metal drone hovered, blinking red. A voice crackled through a speaker. Your survival test begins now. You have no supplies, no help. Survive. Leo didn't speak. He just looked at the sky, then down at the snow. He knew. This wasn't a normal exam. This was something else. Something dangerous. Far above, in a warm spaceship, alien students watched the scene on screens. Their teacher, Zurl, crossed his arms and said, "This human won't last one night." But Leo had other plans. He stood up, pulled his jacket tight, and began walking toward a frozen ridge. No fear, no panic. Just one goal: survive the impossible. High above the ice planet, inside a glowing control room, the alien teacher Zurl watched the human boy's slow movements. His long blue fingers tapped the console. He's still alive? He muttered. The students behind him laughed. One said, "No human can pass the ice trial. This planet eats warriors." Zurl turned. "This is not just survival. It's understanding. Strategy, intelligence. If the human fails, we erase their species from the candidate list." Below, Leo walked through freezing winds. His face was red, lips cracked, but he was thinking. Studying the land. Not just looking for shelter, planning something. A new message came through the drone. You have 72 hours. Temperature dropping, wind rising, storm incoming. Leo heard the warning. He looked at the gray clouds forming fast in the sky. His fingers were numb, but he knelt down and began to dig, not with panic, but with purpose. Inside the ship, Zurl narrowed his eyes. Why isn't he building a wall? Why not seek a cave? Another student replied, nervous now. Sir, he's building something else. As night fell, the ice world became even more deadly. The sun vanished behind sharp mountains. The wind screamed louder. The temperature dropped so fast that even the drone monitoring Leo began to ice over. It sent one last report before its lens. Froze human is still active, no signs of panic. Leo had dug a shallow pit and stacked blocks of snow around it, thick and tight. It wasn't warm, but it was something. A shell against the storm. Inside, he sat with his arms around his knees. He had no fire, no food, just his breath fogging the cold air. Every part of him hurt. His muscles shook. His eyes stayed open. He didn't sleep. He COULDN single quotes to high above, in the alien classroom. Most students had gone to bed. Only Zurl remained, watching the dark screen. He should have frozen by now, the teacher said to himself. Suddenly, the screen blinked. Leo was still, awake. And now, he was smiling. Why? What did he know that the others didn't? What was he planning in the middle of the cold? By morning, the storm had passed, but only barely. Snow piled over the shelter Leo built. For a moment, it looked like he was buried. Then, movement. A thin tunnel of smoke rose through the snow. A hand pushed upward. Leo crawled out, slow but alive. His face was pale, lips blue, but in his eyes burned focus. Inside the ship, the drone reactivated and sent fresh images to the control room. Alien students gasped when they saw what Leo had done. He survived the night? One said, he should have frozen. Said another, but what shocked them more was what Leo built next. He began shaping snow into perfect cubes, each the same size, and stacking them in a circle. A dome slowly took form. Not random, not rushed. Precision work. Then he used smooth stones and reflected light, through thin ice to melt snow inside without flooding the structure. He's redirecting heat, Zurl said slowly, like a trained engineer. But we gave him no tools. A student replied. Zurl leaned forward, eyes narrowing. No tools, except his mind. The second night fell faster and colder. Snow turned to ice. Even the drone above Leo's shelter began glitching, its circuits struggling in the cold. But inside the igloo, there was light, not from alien tech, not from batteries. From fire. Leo sat inside the dome, small flames dancing in front of him. He had burned something local moss gathered earlier, mixed with his own clothing threads as kindling. The fire crackled quietly, venting smoke through a tunnel he had carved above. How is that possible? Zurl barked. There's no fuel. On that planet, he made fuel, a student whispered. That moss is full of dry fibers, flammable. The heat inside the igloo was just enough to warm the air without melting the walls. The vent released smoke, but not heat. Leo had created a balance on an alien world. With no help, he warmed his hands and pulled a strange tool from his pocket, just a broken piece of metal. But with it, he carved a tunnel to the outside. He wasn't just surviving anymore. He was building something. And the aliens were starting to worry. By the third day, Leo's shelter was no longer just a dome. It was a base. The aliens stared at the screen in silence. One igloo had become 2, then 3, each connected by tunnels carved through the snow like veins under the ice. Smoke rose from tiny vents placed carefully above each dome. No signs of collapse, no heat leaks. Every structure had a purpose. He's building a network, one student whispered. A camp, another said, eyes wide. No, Zurl replied, voice low. A system. Inside the network, Leo moved fast but calmly. One dome had fire and heat. Another held ice. He was melting for water. The third was empty, a place to rest. He rotated between them, keeping each space at the right temperature, using snow blocks and icy wind to balance the airflow. This wasn't guesswork. This was design. Where did a human child learn this? Zurl growled. No one answered. But in one corner of the classroom, a quiet student tapped their finger nervously. They'd seen this design before, in human survival games. By the 4th day, curiosity turned into obsession. Leo's growing igloo network now had 5 domes, each active with heat, smoke, or stored supplies made from ice and moss. His movement was calm, his face focused. He didn't even look at the drone anymore. In the observation ship, alien students leaned closer to the screens. One whispered, "What if we're wrong about humans?" Another muttered, "This is smarter than anything we've built in simulation." Against strict orders, 2 students, Crix and Fanu, snuck into a supply pod and launched a shuttle to the surface. Xurl was away from the room. No one stopped them. Within minutes, the shuttle landed near Leo's camp. The 2 students stepped out, shivering even inside their suits. They walked toward the glowing domes, unsure what they'd find. Leo heard them before he saw them. He stepped out of his central dome. His face showed no fear. "You're not part of the test," he said. Calmly, Fanu's voice shook. We wanted to see it. This shouldn't be possible." Leo simply nodded. "Nothing is impossible. You just don't freeze when others panic." An alarm blared in the control room. Unauthorized shuttle on the surface. Rule breach detected. Zurl stormed into the chamber, eyes glowing with anger. Who disobeyed the order? He roared. The students were silent. But on the screen, the truth was clear. Crix and Fanu stood inside Leo's igloo network, warmed by his fire, amazed by what he had built. They weren't mocking anymore. They were learning. Zurl didn't wait. Within minutes, his private lander touched down on the ice world. His tall figure stepped out into the cold, cloak whipping in the wind. No drone, no guards. Just Fury. Leo met him at the center dome. You've broken protocol, Zurl snapped. You broke it first, Leo replied calmly. This wasn't a test, it was a trap. You expected me to die. Zurl's sharp teeth showed. You were supposed to understand fear. Leo pointed around. I understood design. Fire, airflow, heat control. I survived because I think. Not because I fight. Zurl stepped forward, looking at the structure. His anger faded just a little. You turned a death sentence into architecture. Snowflakes swirled in silence as Leo and Zurl stood face to face. Behind them, the alien students remained inside the igloos, watching quietly. Heat from the fire vents rose into the sky. This place, once meant for death, now looked alive. You disrespected the council, Zurl said, his voice tight. This was not your place to build, to lead. Leo didn't move. You called it a test. I treated it like one. You were meant to survive, Zurl growled. Not thrive. I didn't survive, Leo replied, calm but firm. I adapted. Zurl stepped closer. Do you think this makes humans special? That fire and tunnels prove your worth? No. Leo said, but your people gave up when it got hard. I built when I had nothing. Zurl looked around again. The domes, the smoke vents, the melted ice channel, everything done by hand. By thought, by will. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then, softly, you weren't supposed to succeed. Leo's eyes narrowed. Then maybe you should have chosen a colder planet. Back aboard the alien mothership, the council gathered in silence. Footage of Leo's survival was played on the grand screen, his first shelter, the fire vent, the connected igloos, even his calm confrontation with XUR. No one spoke for a while. Then, a deep voice from the High Council said, this was meant to expose weakness. Another added, but instead it exposed something else. Creativity under pressure. Zurl stood before them, his head low. I tried to break the human, I failed. The eldest counselor leaned forward. You didn't fail, you discovered something. This human boy did more than survive, he taught our students. In the background, alien cadets were copying Leo's designs, testing mini igloos in simulations. Earth is no longer a candidate for exclusion, the counselor declared. In fact, we want them at the front. Leo, now returned from the ice world, stood before them. We offer you a mission. The counselor said, a harsher planet, no cameras, no help. Lead it. Leo smiled slightly. I'll bring extra moss this time.